PodcastCoug Season 3, Episode 3.
You're listening to the PodcastCoug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The PodcastCoug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. And now, here is your host, PodcastCoug.
Welcome back to the PodcastCoug. I am James Laurie, the PodcastCoug, and you are listening to the PodcastCoug, where we are all things Cougar football. 30 minutes of Coug talk. We're going to talk about our previous game against Eastern Washington and our upcoming game against USC. Trojans, of course, Friday night at the Coliseum, 7:30 kick, ESPN National Television, and it's our first away game of the season, the Coliseum. That is so cool. A couple of announcements here. The homecoming game against Utah on the 29th of September. That is a great tailgate time. 3 o'clock is your kick on the 29th, homecoming Utah Utes in Pullman at Martin. Okay, well, hey, welcome back another week, and we're talking about Eastern. There's some great things on that Eastern game last week. Almost 60 points, right? And 500 yards, more than 500 yards on the opening drive. From the opening drive to the final buzzer. Wow, just, almost 60 points, more than 500 yards from beginning to the end, and the offense didn't have any trouble getting off the ground. Cougs were able to put up points on the board each of their 4 quarters, played a really solid, complete game, right? 4 quarters, a solid entire game. They had, 14 in the first quarter, 14 in the second, 7 in the third, and 17 in the fourth quarter. Equal distribution, that's not bad. Wasn't possible the last game, against San Jose State. We scored, 24 points in the first 2 quarters and 7 in the last 2. So what a complete game against Eastern Washington. That is just great. Minshew threw for 2 touchdown passes and finished a career high of 470 yards. Final score, Washington State 59, Eastern 24. And, of course, on Saturday, Eastern Washington became the 9th consecutive team to walk out of Martin with a loss to the Cougs, who dominated in front of the sellout crowd. That's 9 home games in a row we've won. 9 in a row. That is so cool. Right, Cougs preserved its win streak at Martin, and that goes back to 2016 to the Apple Cup. So 9 in a row at home. That is just incredible. Let's keep that rolling. We talked about the Utes coming to town on the 29th. I'm looking forward to that. So we saw one of the best offensive performance and chemistry in the Mike Leach era. Literally, totally impressive. I don't care if we're playing FCS. That is a very good FCS football team. Okay, Eastern, they've got players. They may not have all the scholarships that we have, right? But they've got some players. And I'll tell you, that was just a great, fun, great game. One of the best offensive performances we've seen in Mike Leach era. I mean, it's all starts with Gardner, right? I mean, just incredible performance, execution, leadership, everything. Totally, just very impressive. So the Cougs' defensive secondary broke down a few times, giving Gage Gubrud and the Eagles some life in the third quarter when Gubrud threw 2 touchdowns and twice cut their lead to 11 points. But Gardner led an important 8-play, 99 drive with 4 minutes left in the third quarter, and then we took off with an 18-point lead from that. Jahad Woods came up with a key interception late in the third quarter, giving the Cougs offensive ball back on Eastern's 27-yard line with 35 seconds to go in the third. And Tracy Clay's defense gave up only 372 yards total offense and forced 4 turnovers. Jahad Woods, Jalen Thompson, and Darian Moulton each intercepted Gubrud, and Eastern's Dre Dorton fumbled a kick return in the fourth quarter when the game was already just clinched, right? So the Eagles' ball security, actually lack of ball security, directed us to have 24 more points. So good going on Tracy Clay again. Third week in a row, our defense steps up, takes off where Grinch left off. I'm sorry. Alex was great. Tracy Clay is better. Okay? And I mean, it's true. Come on. Now we haven't really played anybody, but we've got a very, very good defense. And keep in mind, those are a lot of Alex Grinch's kids. So guys that, Grinch has recruited and whatnot. So James Williams had just 4 touchdowns all of last season's, right? All last season, Williams had 4 TDs, but already he's got 6 this year. And he's scoring 3 times on the ground, more, on Saturday night. He's just doing really well. Williams pounded a 1-yard TD in the first quarter, added a 2-yarder in the second and an 8-yarder in the third. How about Tay Martin, right? A career night for Tay followed his 2-touchdown effort last week against San Jose State. Tay caught 13 passes for 149 yards. Both his best effort, personal best, came up with a 21-yard TD in the fourth quarter. Jihad Woods. Can you say it again? Jihad Woods. All right. Jihad, don't listen to this. Don't listen to the podcast, Coug. If you do, you got to be humble, man, because your head's going to be big after come on, man. We're talking about ego here, and there is no ego, so don't listen to me. But you are you're a freak, right? You are a freak. Phenomenal. And we love it. We love that you're here. All right. He finished, Jihad finished with 5 tackles. Biggest contribution was a nifty interception that Gage Gubrud had late in the third quarter. Jihad leaped up, got his hand on the pass, tipping off to himself, coming down on the ball, giving us the ball back on the 27-yard line. Right? How about Travell Harris? Ever heard of Travell Harris before last week? Wow. How about that 100-yard kickoff return for a TD? Never heard of, literally, we haven't really seen very much of Travell Harris before. And 100-yard return. That is so nice. It's been, a couple years since 2016 Arizona State since we've had a 100-yard return. So good going, Travell Harris. That is so cool. Looking forward to more, right? I think the Cougs are on a roll, and of course they're outperforming expectations once again. Once again, we're picked to the bottom, near the bottom of the second half of the Pac-12 North, and here we are exceeding expectations again. Another Leach. This is just typical how we, and ratings don't mean anything. These preseason ratings today, they don't mean anything. They really, look at Browning. Come on, look at Browning. Can I say it again? Look at Browning. Look at him. Washington has a good defense. That's it. Everybody thought, they're a top 10 team. You know what? Let's have a conversation a month from now and see if the University of Washington is a top 10 team. All right? Just let's do it. Preseason polls mean nothing. Polls right now mean nothing. And again, we're outperforming our expectations. And, somebody wants to take a negative. Hey, we're 3-0. We haven't played anybody but a couple of Mountain West teams and a good FCS team. And a FBS program should, but we're still, receiving other receiving votes, right? You always see that. But that's okay. Keep doing the other receiving votes. Of course, we'll take care of Southern Cal Friday night and see what happens. Right? Remember, polls don't mean anything. Winning does, right? Hey, we're going to be speaking about USC. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk about USC, University Southern California Trojans, next, right here on the Podcast Coug.
Hey, Coug fans. You're podcasting with James Laurie and the Podcast Coug Radio Network. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug on Demand show, featuring all things Cougar football in Washington State. To help you get through the week, hit the subscribe button or check us out on iTunes, the App Store, iOS, Google Play, Stitcher, or at PodcastCoug.com.
Welcome back to the second half of the Podcast Coug. I am James Laurie, the Podcast Coug, and the Cougs are bringing their unbeaten record to number 22. What's up with this number 22, right? Remember, we talked about polls? They mean nothing. Although if we beat, then hey, we knocked off number 22, right? Then they mean something. We are bringing our unbeaten record to number 22, the University of Southern California. Tomorrow night, Friday night, Pac-12 opener in Los Angeles. So exciting, the Coliseum. So exciting. Used to be an intimidating place to play for years, for decades. For decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. Literally. Is it for Gardner? No. I don't think so. I really don't. I think it was for everybody else. Everybody, including Luke Falk. Okay. Coliseum, I think Gardner's going to be fine. USC has lost to Stanford and Texas. And, if we beat SC on Friday night, Leach is going to be 3-1 against USC. That's right, 3-1 against USC. That isn't the Huskies. That's the University of Southern California, right? They've got great 4 stars and 5 stars. What they don't have, and I'm going to bring this up in a few minutes, they don't have leadership. They've got 4-star guys and 5-star guys and 5-star guys and 4-star guys and very few 3-star guys. What they don't have is tremendous leadership and chemistry. That's that's the problem. Just like the Seahawks, okay? They've got, sure, Pete Carroll's a great guy. And I'm not an NFL guy, and I'm not going to get into the Sea Losers. I'm sorry, that's disrespectful. I'm not going to get into the Seahawks. I'm not an NFL guy, but it's called leadership and chemistry. When you take the Beatles, you take Lennon, you take McCartney, and just change out personnel, it's not going to be the Beatles. And anyway, Clay Helton, he's on the hot seat. He's had a lot of great things he's talking about us, by the way, in the media. But yeah, he's in the hot seat, and I don't think that SC has the right guy. They don't have the right guy on the right bus, right? You got to have the right guy on the right bus, heading down the right road, and I just don't think they have it. That doesn't mean that Mr. Helton can't coach at a Power 5 school somewhere else, but I just don't think he's the right type of guy that the Trojans need to maintain their historically amazing performance. How many bowl games have they been in the last 100 years? It's incredible. Anyway, USC Clay Helton thought that the Trojans were catching a break this season when basically with the graduation of former record-setting Washington State quarterback Luke Falk, who is now with the Miami Dolphins in the NFL. Okay, he thought, we're going to catch a break. Cougs come to the Coliseum. After all, it was Luke Falk that won last year, 30-27, beating the Trojans at Martin, completing 34 of 51 passes, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Cougs also netted 122 yards on the ground and a total offensive output of 462 yards against the USC defense. And Helton thought we get a break. And guess what? He started watching video of Gardner Minshew, and in preparation for tomorrow night's game, Friday night. Depending on what day you're listening to this, Friday night, ESPN national TV, unbeaten Cougs, and the struggling USC Trojans. Quickly realized the Cougs didn't drop off at all in performance, not a hitch in quarterback. And honestly, okay. I'll just come out and say this. I think Gardner's a better quarterback than Luke. I don't want to say way better. He is better. Come on. He doesn't hold on to the ball. It's a quick release. He reads his reads so quickly. He knows he's studied the air raid his entire life. That's why he's here, right? And that's why he's playing for Mike, because he's an air raid guy. It's in his heart. He loves it, loves it, loves it. And he doesn't hold on to the ball, and he doesn't throw a lot of picks. And Luke's a great guy, but I think he got banged up a little bit, especially with the concussion situation, or possibly. But I wish, obviously, the best for Luke. He's a great Coug. He's down in Florida at Miami. But when Helton started watching the video of Gardner, oh my gosh, Oh, my gosh. And here we are 3-0. 3 non-conference victories. Minshew is completing 71% of the passes, best in the nation, 401 yards per game through the air, Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week, and leading the nation in total offense and completions per game. Helton's response after studying Minshew on film, he's impressed. Okay? You come into the game thinking Luke Falk is finally gone and maybe you're going to catch a break, but Gardner Minshew is just as good. Well, guess what, Mr. Helton? He's better. He's better, okay? You may have only seen a little bit of videos, but guess what? We've been watching him, and how about that Eastern game? He's better. Now, that doesn't mean, how many times have we seen this? Doesn't mean that Gardner is going to have an amazing performance, outstanding performance in the Coliseum on Friday. You know, I mean, look at Khalil Tate. When he ran us down, I thought, okay, Khalil Tate is the next greatest, quarterback on earth. And Khalil Tate has struggled many times. I thought he was just going to, so just because you have a couple of great games doesn't mean you're going to continually be amazing. But, I think he's better. Okay. So Helton said Tuesday at the Pac-12 Coaches Conference, being a quarterback coach by trade, I always study the opposing quarterback for our defense coaches and players just to give them some insight. And, he says, I'm extremely impressed, not only with his making great decisions, but you could tell the confidence that everybody has on Gardner. I mean, our entire staff. He's attempting 55 passes per game, completing 70%. He's special talent. And Helton says, I know Coach Leach must be ecstatic to have him on the team and ecstatic at how well he's playing. Well, guess what? Mike Leach doesn't share his emotions like that. It's, how he shares his emotions? We got to improve. We got to get better. We got to improve. It's next week. We got to improve this week and get better and better and better. I mean, you could run the table and never be grateful. And I'm not trying to. I'm just saying you could run the table, and it's always got to get better, got to be better. So I don't know if Coach Leach is ecstatic. I think that Helton said that, but I don't think he was. I mean, maybe quietly he's just thrilled. I'm sure he is, but he sure doesn't show it during his interviews or his press conferences, right? Minshew isn't afraid of checking down on his third or fourth down options, tossing the ball to a running back, circling in the backfield. And Helton said that, Williams and Borghi have already combined 29 receptions. Just incredible, right? So quarterback does a tremendous job of checking the ball down. They're effective at staying on the field. They play their quarterback. The play of Gardner really stands out. Huge fan of Luke Falk last year. This is Helton saying he was a huge fan of Luke Falk. Really had a lot of honor and respect. Did great things. No drop off. Let's next man up, reload, next man up. Coach Leach has done a great job finding a quarterback that fits his system, and he's found one. Yeah, you know what? It's a surprise. It was a surprise to all of us. He has, and this is why there was really not a big. We knew going into spring ball that Minshew's probably the guy, but we had no idea he was going to be this great. Now we do. Okay, for those of you who've been watching week after week, anybody bandwagon that's joining us now, if you haven't seen Gardner, the guy's amazing. Doesn't mean that he will be on Friday night. The Coliseum is the Coliseum. I don't care. Sure, he's got confidence and leadership. You still got the band. You still got the horse. You still got the Trojan. And you got 110,000 seats in that stadium that it's going to be half empty on a Friday night when Friday night high school football is playing all around there, and a lot of our recruits are playing football right now in high school. So Friday nights are not necessarily the best solution for recruiting, okay? Because guess what? Your recruits are playing football, and if they're not playing football, they're probably not qualified to be in a D5 school. Okay, so Friday night is interesting, but we do have the national exposure with, of course, and with the media. So So besides Minshew's individual numbers, team statistics for Washington State, they just jump out at Helton, and like number of sacks, or actually the lack of. The Cougs have allowed, even though Minshew has attempted 165 passes, by far the most in the Pac-12, yet very few sacks. And the Cougs have just allowed 2 sacks. It really is an indication that Gardner and our offense is flawlessly executing the air raid at a high level. We're performing this air raid just perfectly. USC has 7 sacks in 3 games. Minshew is getting the ball out on time, doing it accurately, not taking sacks. They're doing a great job protecting the quarterback. It's staggering to attempt to almost like 180 passes and just have 2 sacks. Offensively, they run what they run, and they run it very well. All right, thanks to Williams and Borghi and everybody else. And Leach does a tremendous job with that little piece of paper. The 25 or 30 plays that he has, that nobody can see what's on that paper, by the way, right? Helton said that USC is preparing to play 4 downs every series. So that's interesting. Watch USC. They're going to be playing 4-down football on every series, considering Washington State already has the Pac-12 high at 11 times on 4th down. We've converted. One reason why we're just converting only 27% on our 3rd downs, lowest in the Pac-12. We're only getting 27% on 3rd downs, but we are the high at 4th down conversions, converting 8 for literally for a success rate of 72%. That's amazing. Basically, we're a 4th down team, and you have to play a 4th down. You have to, the Trojans are going to play 4th down against us. They're going to be prepared. So they're going to have to do the extra, everything they need to do on 3rd downs to make it work, defensively. So defensively, Washington State has been able to overcome the lack of size along the defensive front with a great portion of speed and quickness. That speedy D. As a result, the Cougs are holding opponents to like 100 yards on the ground, second best in the Pac-12, averaging 3 sacks per game. So Helton's impressed with us. He's just, I think he really is. He's just not saying it. He's just, a lot of coaches say, one thing, hey, Mr. Leach, how many times can you say that the opposing team is explosive? Okay. Wyoming, they're explosive. San Jose State, they're explosive. Eastern, they're explosive. They've got great guys, and they run around and fly around, and they're explosive. Well, okay, that is honoring and respecting and politically playing it right to the other team, okay? And so you're going to get these opposing coaches that are going to say good things about us and about everybody else, right? But I really believe that Helton is telling the truth by saying that we show great bursts and it just jumps off the tape. I mean, we're doing a great job tackling for loss and getting sacks, and we're rushing guys, 3rd down. I mean, we're just doing a great job. So the pressure, everything we're executing is just great. I really believe that he's telling, he really feels. And, I think that team's going to be ready for us. They're taking. I think this is the first time in the history of this series that USC is taking Washington State at a very high serious level, because for many, many years, the Washington State, okay, that's fine. Another game, we'll just, we'll win it, blow them out. And for years, I mean, the fans down there, it's kind of like an Oregon State team. Well, a little bit better than Oregon State, but I think this year we've got a lot of respect. Yeah, we beat them last year. We beat them, like I said, Leach is going to be 3-1 against the Trojans if we beat USC on Friday. So, anyway, lots of good stuff there. You know that Helton's job is on the line. Like I said, if he loses on Friday, oh my gosh, Trojans are going to be calling for his head. The entire Trojan Empire, including the horse, are going to be calling for his head, Tommy the Trojan. And, like I said in the beginning or earlier on the second half of the podcast, Coug, the problem in my perspective is not lack of talent. These guys, they've got all the 5 stars and the 4 stars all day long, okay? It's not the lack of talent. It's the lack of great leadership and team chemistry. And you got to have that. And you can't necessarily go out and buy that. You've got to recruit. You got to know. Look at Gardner. Look at how he is. The guy is amazing off the field. Sure, he's talented, skilled, but what a leader. And we just need that. Every team needs that. The Seahawks need that, right? Great leadership and great team chemistry. So Helton isn't the right guy. I don't think he's the right guy for a program, for the tradition that USC is, in my opinion. And so I personally think he's gone. Whether he loses tomorrow night or I don't think this season it's going to be like the Seahawks. I'm not saying Pete Carroll's gone. I'm just saying the Seahawks are not going to win very many games this year. And I'm not an NFL guy, and on the podcast, Coug, I have never talked about the Seahawks. But, all these people in what we call the crimson-colored glasses think that the beginning of the year, Seahawks, nobody knows. But the Seahawks are going to be great this year. You know what? They're not. They're simply not. And it's not Russell Wilson. It's leadership and chemistry. Maybe a little bit of Russell. Who knows? He's good, though. And the same thing with Helton and USC. So I think they just need to change some things up there, maybe. Let's hope they don't. I want to take these guys on for the next 5 years. I want to have a winning streak. Wouldn't that be nice to win tomorrow, Friday night, beat USC, have a 2-game winning streak next year? Actually, we don't play the Trojans every year. It's usually UCLA. We kind of trade off. But then USC comes to Pullman next time, and we beat them, and we'll have like a 3-game winning streak and then a 4-game. Wouldn't that be nice? Then we take it from there, and we do that with the Apple Cup. That would be just great. Wouldn't that be just great? That would be just wonderful. Hey, that is it for this episode of the Podcast Coug. We're going to catch you next time, and have a great Friday night. Enjoy the game. Take care of yourself, and go Cougs.
You've been listening to the Podcast Coug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. This has been a presentation of the Podcast Coug Radio Network. Find us at podcastcoug.com.